But the first thing I want to do is to show you a few things around the screen that you may or may not have noticed in Blackboard before. So I do want to draw your attention to the top right-hand corner of the screen. And there are a couple of buttons up here. The first one that's really important says edit mode is on or off. So when edit mode is off, my screen just changed a little bit. And I'll show you the difference between those things. So when I click that, it's just a toggle button, so I turn it on and off. So when I turn it on, suddenly there are more options on the screen. There's a button here to create an announcement. There are some drop-down buttons when I hover over things. So when I turn edit mode off, I don't see that stuff. So if you're trying to edit your course and you can't find the buttons that you're looking for, check in the top right-hand corner to make sure that edit mode is on. The other button I want you to show you up in the top right-hand corner is this one that looks like an eyeball with like these arrows going around it. And that is to enter student preview. So one thing that's really important to know is what are your students seeing in your course? So you create something in Blackboard, but sometimes your students might say, I can't see this assignment. And you're like, well, it's right here in front of me. Why can't you see it? So by entering this student preview mode, you get to see exactly what students see. So I'm going to click on that eyeball button, and you can see this orange bar appears at the top of the screen. It says student preview mode is on. And then everything has really kind of cleaned up on the screen. A bunch of things disappeared. So there's no control panel anymore. There's no, create buttons or anything like that, because now I'm seeing exactly what the students see. So if I was a student and I went to announcements, there are none. So I get this blank screen. If I go to any of these things, there's no content here right now, and there's no way to change any of that because I'm a student. When you exit the student preview mode, you get an option here to either delete the preview user and data, and it's recommended, or to keep it. And I actually recommend the other one. I recommend keeping it, because when you keep the preview user data, it actually creates a student account with your name on it. So I have Ann Fency preview user in my class because I kept this data. So that means I can go in as a student, I can submit an assignment, and I can leave, and I can come back in as the instructor, and I can grade that assignment. And then I can go back in as the student, and I can see, oh, what does the student see when an assignment is graded? What does that look like? So you can flip back and forth between teacher and student if you keep this preview user data. So I'm going to save that and exit my preview. And I'm back in the course. Now, I mentioned that you'll see some drop-down buttons sometimes. So for example, if I put my mouse over on the left-hand side of the screen and I'm looking at this menu, I can, when I put my mouse over it, I get a drop-down, and that gives me some options. So I'll also see that when I have, let's see, I'm going to quickly create something. And so I have an item here, and it also gets a little drop down. So you see those as you put your mouse over them, you get this drop down menu, and it will change depending on what it is that you're clicking on. Another thing that you'll see in the menu is either a little gray box here, which means that there's no content there, or you might see a box with a slash through it. So if I hide this link from students, students can't see this link anymore, and here's that little slash through the box that tells me that link is hidden from students. And sometimes you do want to hide content from students. You might be working on a section and you don't want them to go in and see a draft of it. So you might hide something from students, and that's one way to do it in the course menu. I'll show you another way as well. So in the content areas is likely where you're going to be building all of the materials for your class. So some people will have a button in the menu for your syllabus and keep that separate from what's happening in each module or unit or week. And then they'll have either a course content or weekly content or something where they put all of the content for the course. And the content can be organized in a couple of different ways. One is by folders, so you can have a list of folders, and a lot of people do like week 1 folder, week 2 folder, week 3 folder. And then when the student opens that week 1 folder, everything they need for week 1 is in that one folder. And then when they come back for week 2, they go to the week 2 folder, everything they need is in there in one big long list. Now, sometimes people make their Blackboard courses and they have a lot of content in there, and the screen just scrolls and scrolls and scrolls. And there's a thing about scrolling that is challenging for learners. As something moves beyond the screen, you scroll and it disappears. Now you've put that in your short-term working memory, and you've used up a chunk of your short-term working memory. So then they're focused on what's on the screen in front of them. And if they scroll again, now they have 2 chunks in short-term working memory. And they're using up all their working memory, and they don't have any of it to spend on what they're actually looking at. So the less you can scroll, the better. So what I would suggest is, if you have a lot of content, instead of using folders, I'm going to go to this Build Content drop-down menu. And there is a place here to create content folders. There's another thing here called a learning module. And let me just quickly show you the difference between those. So I'm actually going to go into another course to demonstrate this, because I have some content in here that you can see. So inside this course, I have a folder, and it looks like a folder. It has that icon. And then I also have a module, a learning module, which looks like a little binder with tabs in it. And I'm going to turn edit mode off here for a minute so I can see it like a student. And with the folder, if I click on that folder to open it up, then I can see content in here, and I just scroll through the screen to see all of the content. And this, yeah, it has a little bit of scrolling to do, not terribly bad. But this week 1 introduction, this one has a lot of content in it. So here, what I've done is used the learning module, and that shows just one item, and then it creates a table of contents over on the left-hand side of the screen with all of the other items, and then I have some navigation buttons to go from one page to the next. And sometimes this can be easier for students because they can kind of keep track of where they are, and they can kind of focus on one item at a time. So this is good if you have a lot of content inside your folders, your units, or your modules. Then I would suggest using the learning module rather than content folders. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to go back to this course content, and I'm going to show you how to create a folder. So I have to make sure edit mode is on. So I go up in my top right-hand corner and I click that off button and turn it on. And most of the stuff that you're going to need for your course is under this Build Content menu. And you can see there's quite a lot of things here. So under here, over on the right-hand column, the first item is Content Folder. So that just creates a holding place to put other items. And when you're in any of the editing screens in Blackboard, you'll see these orange asterisks next to anything that you must fill out. Sometimes there's other options on the screen, and if they don't have an orange asterisk, you can kind of ignore them. Or you can kind of poke around in there and see what happens. So I'm going to name this folder Week 5. And then I also have a text box here where I can type in a description. So I just give a brief description of what's going to be covered, what will students find inside this folder. Now, a word about this text editor. It is a rich text editor, so I can actually do formatting like I would in Microsoft Word. I can highlight something and I can make it bold. You know, I can change colors, I can use bulleted lists or numbered lists, things like that. So there are some formatting buttons on here, and in a little bit we'll get more into some of those buttons. So I'm going to, down at the bottom of every screen in Blackboard, there'll be a Submit button. So I'm going to hit Submit, and now my new item goes to the bottom of the screen. So I just need to scroll down to find my week 5 folder that I just made. In week 5, we'll explore early childhood development. So when I want to put stuff in the folder, I'm going to click on the folder title to open it up, and I'll go back to build content again. And now I'll put some other content in here. So the most often one that you'll use is create item. So create item is pretty versatile. It lets me just create content in here. So I'm actually going to put in, even though it's week 5, let's imagine that it's another week. I'm going to say that this is the syllabus. So I'm going to tell students to please download this syllabus and read through it carefully. There will be a quiz. So then what I would do is I would scroll down here to this section on attachments, and I would click Browse My Computer to go find my file. And I have a syllabus on my desktop here. And now I can see that it is attached here. And I'm going to go ahead and hit Submit. And now here's that item I just created. So here's the title of that item, syllabus. Here's the text that I typed in there. And here is the link to that file. And when a student, I'm going to go into student preview mode just so we can see this, like a real student would see it. Go to course content. I'm going to go down here to week 5. Whoops. And here's the syllabus that students see. So if you have multiple attachments, they'll all be listed here. So I do recommend that if you have Word documents that you're attaching, that you also save them as PDF files and attach them as well. And the reason for that is because if you have a Word document, the student has to download it every single time that they click on it. So they get multiple copies of it. If it's a PDF, it will actually open right inside the browser. So the student doesn't need to download it. They can just click on it and it opens right up here. So this is something that's much easier for students to manage if something opens right inside Blackboard. So I'm going to exit this preview here. And what I'd like to do now is to take some time to do some work. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen again. And here is what I would like you to do. I'm going to give you a little assignment. So if you want to write down these 3 things, I'm going to ask you to create a menu item with your name on it so that you can build some stuff. I'm going to ask you to put a folder in it, and then I'm also going to ask you to put an item with an attachment in it. And we'll be around to help you with these things. Okay, so one more time, it is creating a menu item, a folder, and an item with an attachment. And actually, let me go back and share again real quick. So I'm going to go back home, and I've put you all into this class called, it'll be way down at your bottom, UCFDC Blackboard Playground. And you all have instructor privileges in there. So when you click and enter that course, you'll be able to click this little plus sign up here in the menu and add a content area and put your name in it and hit submit. So now I have my content area in this course and I can build some stuff. So I'd like you to create your own content area in this course and build a folder and an item with an attachment. Yeah, so there is, inside the item itself, you can permit users to view this content. You can say no, so it hides it. So actually, I'm going to do that with this one. I'm going to say no for your folder. Students can't see it. And now you can see availability, item is not available. So even though the students can get to this section by clicking on Roz, when they get here, they won't see anything.
Right.
Because this is unavailable. So then to make it available, you would edit it. And then you would go down here and say, yes, permit users to view the content. And then submit.
Okay, so it can all be separate. So you could have a week 5 that doesn't show up until 5 weeks into the course.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then each item can actually appear by day or whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Now this next question, my attachment I just had there was in a doc. Would I have to scan it and actually translate it into a PDF?
No, so when you're in Microsoft Word, when you do save as, there's an option to save it as a PDF.
Okay, let me.
All right, so we're all back. So we'll have some more work time too. So did anyone discover anything interesting on their travel that they'd like to share?
Yes, I tried to upload a video, and it's better to do it in YouTube than to put it on the content area. That was
Yes. Yep. And we do also have a tool called Kaltura that you can upload videos to. That works very well in Blackboard. Anyone else notice something, Marta?
I just want to put in a cheerleading plug for Kaltura.
Yeah.
When I first used it, I found it very clunky. It doesn't have a lot of finesse. It doesn't have the millisecond finesse of editing that Camtasia, for example, does. But it's just a wonderful, brilliant tool for putting yourself up in the corner of the screen, navigating Blackboard and showing your students what's up for this week. And I just think it's great. You can, bang out a 3 to 4 minute video in, 10 minutes. Just have your list of stuff ready to go and where you're going to click. And I found it really terrific. Now, I had it saved in a folder that said Marta's videos, but I also had it embedded within the content where it was relevant, the week that I was introducing. And I may not have had to have the separate video thing. I probably should just get rid of that and just leave it inside the content. But if you haven't used Kaltura, just use it. Use it a few times. Play around, in your office. It works great. And I can't say enough about it. I think it's terrific.
Yay, thank you. And we do have a webinar next Thursday on Kaltura. So if you're brand new, we have one in the morning for brand new people. And then in the afternoon, we have a few more advanced things with Kaltura. So that's next Thursday. All right, so yeah, go ahead, Kathleen.
My computer connection is unstable in case I disappear.
Oh.
I just got to sync to the screen. So I moved it where I could plug it in, but we'll see. Hopefully it'll be okay. And I'm definitely going to sign up for Kaltura.
Okay, great.
Thank
you.
Yeah,
one of the things, maybe I misheard the directions, but what I did was I created my folder in course content or the content folder rather than in the sidebar. So there's a little drop down with the folder that I created where you can move it. And I did that relatively easy. And I've done it once before, but I'm just calling that, if you find you have put something somewhere and you feel like it needs to get moved, rather than having to redo it, you can actually just move the whole thing.
Yeah, you can. So it's a little clunky. So Blackboard does make things a little difficult sometimes, but where there's a will, there's a way. So we can usually show you how. So let me show you a few more things. I'd like to show you how to add other kinds of content because all we did was just add some text and attach a file, but there's lots of other things that you could do. I'd also like to show you how to do announcements because those are really important for communicating with your students. It's a good idea to have a weekly announcement. Even though you have everything in your syllabus students need to know, how many of your students go back and read the syllabus every week? Probably not all of them. So it's also a nice way of chunking your content so that it's not so overwhelming for students too. You just let them know, this week, this is what we're focusing on. Here are your steps. Here's the thing that you should be working on long term. And you can do that in a video like Marta was doing. I'll also show you how to add assignments as well so that you can collect work from students. Rather than having students email you documents, you can actually collect and grade work inside Blackboard. So let me share my screen again, and I'm going to come back to our class here. And I'm just going to go to the course content area because there's no content in there. And we created, under build content, we created a content folder. I also pointed out that there's learning module is another way of organizing content with a table of contents. And we did create item. There's another one under here under create called file. Now you might wonder, why don't I just use create file to add my syllabus, because it's just a file that I'm attaching. Well, the reason why is because you can put the name of it and you can attach the file, but you can't put anything else. So when I attach a file, I like to let students know what's here, what's actually going to be, what are they downloading. So instead I use the create item and I do the syllabus, and then I give them a note like, download the syllabus and read it carefully. There will be a quiz. So I think that's much more effective than just having a file. But you certainly can just add a file. But if you want to put some words around the file, then you need to use create item rather than create file. Under build content, you also have some places that you can add some other kinds of content. So you can add audio files, you can add images or videos, and then you can also easily add a link to another website. So if you were in another window and you found something fabulous on YouTube that you wanted to use, you can, let's see, how about our monologue of the Golden Globes. For some reason, we want to show our students that. So I can link to this page by grabbing the link up here, and I can go to build content, create a web link, give it a title, and I paste the URL in here. Oh, maybe I didn't copy it. Copy, paste. And then I can type something about why I want them to watch this video. And then I just hit submit. And now the students have this link to that external resource, and they have my instructions or a description of it. So this is great for adding links to websites. If you wanted to add a video, like Kathleen mentioned, you can actually use build content and video, and you can, under Mashups, you can do a YouTube video. And this is pretty nice because it will, oh, come on, stay open there. All right, my mouse isn't working right now. There we go. So I search for something in YouTube, or I can even just paste the web address. I select it, and it puts in the title. Again, I can put in a description here. And then what I think is nice, instead of just showing a thumbnail of a video, you can actually embed the video right inside your class. So this is always great because the more you can keep your students in Blackboard, the better for them. They're not getting lost anywhere. So then I just need to submit. And this video now is embedded right here in Blackboard. I don't need to leave Blackboard. I can just click play and I can watch it right here. And the same thing happens with Kaltura videos, is that you can have them play right here inside your course. They don't go anywhere. They don't get lost. They don't close windows by accident.
I have a question, Anne.
Yeah.
The book that I'm using for my class has an online version.
Yep.
Would it make sense to embed that in Blackboard?
Possibly. So you'll want to check with your publisher, because some of them also have companion content along with the textbook, and that's something I can help you explore. But yes, you can certainly link the e-version of your textbook here. Yep, Guy.
And I use some videos that are in Canopy. That's part of the UMA system. That would work the same way?
So you'll actually get a link from the librarian to your video. So they do the copyright clearance, and they schedule it for a certain amount of time and all that. And then they give you a link to the video, and you can do either one of these. You can do video or web link.
Okay. What I had done was just copy the web link, and that's when it's created problems for students being able to get access to. So I think if I'm able to use it as either a video or a web link,
would make it, make it
easier,
easier, smoother.
Okay, thank you.
Now, sometimes you want to have the link right inside text. You don't necessarily want to have an item. You might have an explanation about something, and you might just want to have a link in there. Here is some text. Here is a link. Click here. Obviously, you don't ever want to do click here. You want to say what exactly it is that they're clicking on. But you can highlight some text, and there is a link button. And if you use this link button, then you can paste in a link to a website, and then you'll want to open it in a new window, and then I'll insert it. And now this is blue and underlined. So when I submit this, I'm going to have to put a name. When I submit this, now I've got some text and I've got a link right in here. So say you have like 3 articles online that you want the students to read, you can actually put those links right in the same item rather than putting 3 different web links there. And when I click on it, it opens in a new window, close it, and I'm back here at Blackboard.
Sorry, Ann, how did you add that click here?
Yeah, so I'll show you that one again. I'm inside an item, and everywhere you have the text editor. So this box with the 3 rows of buttons, I have it in announcements, I have it in folder, I have it in item, I have it in assignments and discussion board. You get this anywhere that you can type in text in Blackboard. I just highlight the text, and then there is this button that looks like a chain link, and that's to InsertEdit Link. I click on that button and it opens up a new window, and I paste in the URL, and then I click Insert, and if I forgot to change this target to open it in a new window, then it reminds me here. Change to open it in a new window? Yes, I want to open it in a new window. And then I hit Submit, and it's now a link that I can click on and go to. So you might do that in an announcement sometime. You might say, I'll go to the announcements, and I'm going to click this Create Announcement button. And I might say, assignments for week 5. Watch this video and so then I would highlight the text, click on the link button, paste in the URL, open it in a new window, and insert. And what's really cool about announcements is, one, they're often the home page is the first thing that students will see, but you can also send a copy of the announcement right away in email. That way you don't have to wait until the day that the student happens to log into Blackboard. They can get that announcement right away. And if you have a link in an announcement, they can click on it from their email and do it. So they don't even have to go to Blackboard. I will warn you, though, that some things don't come through in announcements. So if you tried to put a Panopto video, a Kaltura video in here, or if you tried to attach a file, those things don't come through in the email. They have to come to Blackboard and download those things from Blackboard. So, but links like to YouTube and things like that, those do work. So if you do want to send the email out right away rather than waiting until students do that, you just check this box and you hit submit. Now, if you realized, oh, wait, I made a mistake, I forgot to put the link to this article, and you go in to edit it, if this box is still checked when I hit submit, a second email goes out. So if you go to edit any announcements, just uncheck that box again, unless you do want a second announcement to be emailed, because there have been cases where students have gotten like 3 or 4 emails right in a row because the instructor went in to edit the announcement and left that box checked. Now, one last thing I'd like to show you, I'm going to go back to this course content area, and I'm going to add an assignment because I want students to submit work. And instead of building content, now I'm going to go to assessments. And in the assessments dropdown, there are a number of things here, but the one thing we're going to talk about today is assignments. So when I click on assignment, it asks me for a couple of things that are required, like the name. So I'll just say paper number 1. Here are the instructions. So I tell the students what to do. And if I have maybe the instructions in another document, I can upload them here. And then there are a couple other things that are required, like the points possible. So maybe I'll just say 100 points. I would also suggest using this due date function because it doesn't just put the date on the assignment, it also adds it to the global calendar. And let me quickly show you that. So the global calendar is up where your name is in the top right-hand corner of Blackboard. And I'm just going to open this in a new tab so I don't lose my place. So this is the global calendar, and all assignments, tests, things like that that have due dates show up in the global calendar here. And there is also a link here, an external calendar link, where students can copy this and add it to their Google Calendar. So they can have their assignments show up on their Google Calendar too. So that's a great way of keeping students on task. So I'm going to check the due date here. If I want it to be due at the end of day, I don't choose midnight because that means 12 a.m. on the current date. I want it to be end of day, which is 11:59 p.m. Then one other thing I want to show you here on the screen is submission details, because sometimes students mess up when they submit an assignment. They chose the wrong document or something, and then they can't go back and change it. So if you allow multiple attempts, and say I just allow 2 attempts, that lets them mess up once and then still submit the assignment again. This is also great for drafts too. So you might require students to do a draft, or you might have them turn in their paper and say, if you're not happy with your grade, you can use my comments to make some changes and submit your paper again, and I'll grade it and you'll get the higher of the 2 grades. Or you can change this to say, I'll average the 2 grades together and you'll get that grade. So you can let students submit multiple times. The rest of these things you don't need to really worry about, and then I'll go ahead and hit submit. Now, when I hit submit, I've got my assignment here, and I can tell it's an assignment because of this little icon with the pencil and the ruler, but it also created a column in the Grade Center for me. So if I go to the Grade Center, I can now see this Paper 1 column. So it automatically connects to the Grade Center. When a student submits their work, so I'm actually going to go in as a student again, close that, there you go. So I'm going to go in as a student. Oh, I hit it. Let me unhide that. Okay, so I'm going to go in as a student. I'm going to click on content. And here's my paper. And here's the due date, shows how many points are possible. Here are the instructions that I typed in there too. And now I'm going to browse my computer for my assignment, and I'm going to submit that. And here's my assignment. It will be converted so I can see a preview of it. And once I get a grade, I'll be able to see it here too. So I'm going to exit this preview now. And as the instructor, when I want to see that, in the Grade Center, there's this Needs Grading button. And when I click on Needs Grading, I can see assignments that are submitted. And I can view the student's assignment. I can grade them and give them feedback. And the students will be able to see the grade and the feedback. We'll be doing more with this grading stuff this afternoon in this afternoon's webinar. So if you're not signed up for that, I encourage you to do that. So what I'd like to do now is to give you a little bit more work time and give you another assignment to do. So this time what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to create an announcement. And I'd like you to put a link to a web address in there, just so you could practice putting links into items. And then the other thing I'd like you to do is to create an assignment and then go in as a student and submit an assignment. So you can see what that looks like from both the teacher and the student perspective. Okay, so the two parts of this activity are, the first one is the announcement with the link. The second part is creating an announcement and submitting it as a student.
Anne, I have a question.
Yeah.
In the grade book, I understand that there is a tool to alert me when students have not submitted an assignment. Or is there a way for me to see quickly who has submitted an assignment?
Yes, so if you, actually let me share my screen and I'll show you.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go back here to our class.
Mm-hmm.
And if I go to the Grade Center,
Okay.
and I'll go to the full Grade Center,
Mm-hmm.
then I can see some of these assignments. And if there's a blank, that means nothing's been submitted.
Oh, okay. I thought there was a way to, I was thinking that I thought I had heard or perhaps misheard that there was a way to use the grade book to notify the student that they were missing.
Yes.
Yes.
So it doesn't notify you, it notifies the student. Yep. So what you can do is at the top of the column, you can click on the little drop down next to the top of the column here.
Yep.
And you can do send reminder. And that send reminder will take those 3 students that have the blanks here, and it will send an email to them saying, you have not submitted anything for paper number 1.
Okay. So that's when I click on the little chevron.
Yep.
And the drop down.
Yep. So if you have students that have dropped the class, you want to make sure that you make them inactive. Otherwise, they'll also get that email as well.
Right. Now, I have another question about the reminder. Is there a way to customize the reminder?
Nope.
Okay. That would be helpful.
Yeah.
Because I'd like to be able to customize that, hey, you know, I noticed in the grade book you haven't submitted an assignment for this, blah, blah, blah. I'd rather put it into my own sort of words, depending on the assignment.
Yep.
And, you know, reminding and putting perhaps a due date in there. But right now, there is no way to do that.
No, it's just a canned message that goes, yeah. But there is, I don't know if you've ever checked out under evaluation, the Retention Center.
Mm-hmm. No, I have not.
The Retention Center does a couple of things. I don't have any students that are not doing well, so none of them show up for me right now. Actually, let me go into another class so I can show you what that does.
Okay. And I'm sorry, Anne, the evaluation is on the left-hand side under
In
what?
the control panel, evaluation, and Retention Center. So in this class, I have this terrible Ann Fency who is at risk because she has missed deadlines and she hasn't accessed the course recently. So I can click on one of these little red dots and it gives me more information. So she has missed 8 deadlines. And I can click on this little red dot and see, oh, it's been 20 days since they logged in to Blackboard.
Beautiful. Great. Okay.
So that gives me information. And then with that information, I can click notify the student and send them my own email. So when I click notify student, it gives me the email screen and it gives just a canned message here as a suggestion. But I can, you can change that.
Great.
So if I click on the missed deadlines, it also lets me see what are the late submissions. So I can see on this list. And then when I notify the student, I can say, okay, so I noticed that you missed this assignment and that one and this one. You know, make sure you at least get this one in because it's worth this many points.
Okay. Now, I also noticed, Anne, under notify, could you click on the drop down for notify? Now it says students and observers. So my course steward, for example, for my spring rollout of Bio 100 will be listed. And if I click on that, then my steward will also get
a copy of it. Yep.
Okay. I did not realize this is obviously what the course steward is what they look at.
Yes. They use the retention center. Yep.
Great.
Yep.
Great. No, that's really important. I did not know that this existed because I kept thinking, how does she know that, you know, how these students are doing? I guess she has to look at the entire grade book, but now I know that this is wonderful because last semester I had wasted, you know, a lot of my course steward's time by simply saying, hey, can you tell me about so-and-so? They haven't done this and they haven't done that. And it turned out that the course steward had already been in contact with them and already exchanged emails. You know, and that's very good. Now that I know what their resource is, I can use it as a resource as well. That's
another thing that you might talk to your steward about is that if you click on the student in this at-risk table, you can also leave notes here. So you can add a note
for the steward.
And say, between you and the steward. So, and it just gets saved here. So you can say, I emailed this student on 1/8/18 and she responded that her mom died or something like that.
Got it.
And then save that here. And now this note is here in the history of the student. And any emails.
And that Anne is by clicking on the student.
Clicking on the student. Yep. And then if I sent an email to the student, so I'm going to say notify student. And I can just leave this and I'm just going to hit submit and send a notification. Now that notification is also listed here too. So every time I email the student from the retention center, that gets saved here. So the retention center is the only place that saves emails.
Yeah, I did notice that because there's no, in another Blackboard iteration that I use for a different university, they have a course messages tool that saves everything.
Yep.
But I keep having to search my Gmail account, which is unwieldy sometimes. Also because this tool, Anne, if I'm not mistaken, this is going only to their UMain address. Some students send me messages from their phones and their other devices, and it gets very confusing when I'm trying to figure out, you know, when did they respond to me, which one has to do with the course, and it's complicated. This is a wonderful tool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Great.
And you can also click the monitor button on the student, and that will keep them in the retention center, even if they don't end up in the retention center because they're doing well. They'll still end up in your, here, I'll just check the monitor button on the student. And now in the retention center, I can see over on the side, I can keep my eye on the student even if they don't end up in the retention center.
Got it. Perfect.
You send an email to a student through the retention center.
Yep.
And are they able to respond to that email?
Yes, and it goes to your main email address.
Yeah.
Yep. But that response is not saved in the retention center.
Okay.
That's where the notes come in handy.
Yeah.
Great. Anne, I have one more question.
Sure.
I heard something which I'm so embarrassed to say I did not realize. When I have been sending weekly announcements to my students, I had been placing with Mashups my little 5-minute video in there. Now, when I emailed them, you're saying to me today that the Kaltura videos actually don't show up. Only the announcement shows up, and then they have to log into Blackboard.
Yep.
To see that. So there's no way to fix that.
No, and actually what they do see a thumbnail of the video, and when they click on it, they get an error message.
Okay, I did not know that because I never actually, you know, clicked on my own announcements. To know that. But
So
that's okay.
it's a limitation of Blackboard that it won't let you put any materials through the announcements email. So like attachments or videos.
Right, and that makes sense because of course they're looking on their devices or their phones to see, oh, I got an announcement. But that's okay because I can direct them back. But it kind of changes my mind about not having that videos from Marta folder in there accessible to them, because when they go to Blackboard, they can see the latest one because I keep them in order when they come in.
Yep.
So that might still be useful for them because sometimes I send things that have to do with current events. Sometimes I send things that have to do, and sometimes they can come on the same day. Like I usually make my announcements Wednesday morning. Or Thursday morning for the week, and now I know the limitation. So they'll see a thumbnail, but they won't be able to open it. So maybe I won't bother to embed it. Just remind them, hey, double back to Blackboard to see this week's announcement.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. All right. Super. Thank you.
Yep. Or I mean, you can still embed it in the announcement and just say you need to log into Blackboard to watch the video.
Yeah, I'll have to put that as a coda at the end of every announcement.
Yeah.
Remember, you have to be logged into Blackboard to see this.
Yep.
That's great. Okay.
Yeah, because some students get stuck at the error message. They just don't know what to do when they get an error message and they give up.
Yeah, but I can also I never bothered introducing that folder. I just sort of made it appear, and now in retrospect, I never told them what was in there. That's just a place where I was collecting all of them because I said, well, they'll see it as they go into, they'll see it in my announcement, not knowing that they never saw it in my announcement. So that would account for some low eyeballs on my videos. Now I know. A lot of students saw them regularly because a few of them would pop into office hour and I'd remind them, by the way, every week there's a video, and they'd go, oh, okay. But now I know. Lesson learned. Thank you.
Marta mentioned students receiving announcements and things and accessing course content through devices. I know that UMA made the Blackboard app live for like our iDevices, our iPad,
Yep.
our phones. Is there an expectation that we as the instructor are going to interact with the app and see what our course looks like? And there are a lot of devices out there.
Yep.
And a lot of different versions of each device. Is there an expectation that I'm going to be trying to manage that, or am I just focusing on the web?
No, because there's no official policy from UMA about mobile access to Blackboard. Blackboard itself does not support mobile browsers. So even though their site says that you may have some luck with them accessing Blackboard through a mobile browser, and unfortunately some students try to access Blackboard only through a mobile browser, so we try to recommend students to actually access their course through a laptop or a desktop, especially if they're like submitting assignments. But the app can be convenient for students because like if there's an announcement, they can easily read it there on their phone without having to open up their email. They can also set reminders on it too, so that if a new assignment is posted, they get an announcement about it. Or if their assignment has been graded, they can get an announcement that says, a reminder on their phone that says, hey, your paper has been graded, and they can go in and check on the grade on it or the comments. So it can be really convenient for students, but you don't need to worry about what it looks like on the mobile app, because it's Blackboard is already kind of set up to look good on different screens, regardless of what one you're using. All right, so we're all back. So who has something they want to share?
That was tough.
Yeah?
I think I'm going to have an ongoing need for you guys.
All right, we're happy to be here for you.
Okay. Phew.
Well, the biggest problem Kathleen and I had was with Zoom, going back from the break room.
Oh.
I couldn't help her because I don't see her full screen, the Zoom menus.
Yeah, Zoom hides itself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marta.
Is there a one-stop shopping bar so that I can go in and see the collection of views to any of my announcements, videos, whatever? Because I try to track the number of views. You can go in, you can see them for the individual things. Is there like a one-stop thing that I could download, for example, as an Excel file?
Yes, there are reports.
Yes.
So you can kind of play around with them and see which one is giving you the information that you want. But in the control panel under evaluation, you'll find course reports. And there are some that will show you time spent in different areas of the course. There are some that will show you what has been clicked on and how many times. Mm-hmm. There are some that will show you the content by the course as a whole, and some that will show you by student. So you'll just kind of need to play around with them to see
that's perfect.
Which is the right report for you.
Yeah, perfect.
And another thing that I'll quickly show is when you are in Blackboard and you are looking at one of your items in your course, you can, in this little drop down next to the item, you can do statistics tracking. And when I do that, it brings me to this just little on-off switch, and it's by default, it's turned off. So I have to manually turn it on, and you have to manually do it on each item. There's no like quick way to do a whole bunch of them at a time. So it says enabled statistics tracking. And this one has a report right here. You don't go to the report area. And if I do the statistics tracking, then I would just hit this run, and it would ask me dates. Do I want to see a particular user or the whole class? So I would just use these dates. I'd click on this person and hit submit, and it will run the report to see how many times has that person clicked on that particular item. So that's a little cumbersome. I think the reports are a little bit more helpful, but that's certainly one way of tracking that too. Anything else we noticed? Okay, so with the last 5 minutes, I'd like to ask you all a question. What will you be doing in your Blackboard courses that maybe you learned today?
Everything.
Yeah.
I'm going to try, and I'm going to try out one of the modules. I've been doing syllabus reviews and PowerPoints and quizzes for a while, but I like the module setup, I think, pretty clearly, and I think I'm going to test that out for the 4 classes that I'm teaching and use that right from the beginning.
Great. And I really like the idea of putting your syllabus in a module, in a learning module, because it's really user-friendly for the student. It's one thing to have that 14-page document that they download, and they can download it every week and they can scroll through it to find stuff. But it's another thing to have that table of contents on the side where they can just click on grading and they can jump right there. Or they can just click on course schedule and jump right there. So that's really nice. It does mean that you have to make the module, and then you have to put your syllabus into multiple chunks, into multiple items, but it does make it much easier to digest for the students. Yeah, Marta.
So you do suggest taking the syllabus and sort of deconstructing it and making course calendar with the lab calendar and so on. Because I think I have my syllabus and it's all one long blah, 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 with the schedule at the end.
Yep.
Okay.
So it is helpful to have it in that format where a student can download it and actually print it out. So some students like to do that. But to have to download it every time they want to look at it and scroll through, that's cumbersome.
Okay.
So that's just one extra reason why a student won't look at a syllabus.
Okay.
So to encourage them to really make use of the syllabus, it is a good idea to chunk it out for them.
Okay.
In classes that I've taken online throughout my undergraduate education, one of the things that I loved most was when an instructor would upload the syllabus so that I could download it and have it somewhere, but also as they built their course, each week, it's the exact same thing that's written in the syllabus about what my expectations are, and then it's linked below all the things that need to be done. So chunking it out, not just in a learning module, but throughout the course is very, very helpful.
Yep.
I'm with Guy. I think learning modules are awesome, and I'm going to be using it.
One last little thing I'll show you that you think that might be helpful, particularly if you're using the learning modules. I'm going to go back to this course content area, and here's my week 1 introduction, and I'm in edit mode here, so I'm going to see them all listed one on top of each other, not paged out like the student sees it. What I also recommend doing for each of these items is clicking on the drop-down menu next to it and then setting the review status. So the review status by default is disabled, but if you enable it and hit submit, you don't see anything different here except it says enabled review and enabled review. But let me go in as the student and you'll see what happens for a student. So I'm going to go to my course content and that module 1. And for this first item, now I have a checkbox. I know, oh, I read this page already. I checked it off. I'll go to the next page. Oh, I didn't do this one yet. So once I'm done doing this assignment, I can come back here and check it off to let myself know I've gone through this part of the course already. So it's just a self-check. There's nothing to keep a student from checking it if they haven't read it, so it's not like a way of you assessing whether they've read it or not. It's just a tool to help them stay organized. All right, so we are at time. I want to thank you all for coming today for these essentials of Blackboard. And we are available to help you one-on-one. We are open Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Our phone number is 262-7979. You can email us at uc-fdc@maine.edu with your questions. And you can also pop right back into this Zoom room during daytime hours as well. And one of us will be available to answer your questions. So feel free to click on this Zoom link again anytime that you have questions. You don't have to make an appointment. You can just pop right in. The recording, I will edit it to chop out work times, and I'll post it, and I will email you all with a link to the recording. And I'll also email you an evaluation so you can give us your feedback on this session. So thank you all.
Nice job.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very
Right.
much.
And I'll see some of you at 12:30.
Yes.
See you guys. Thank you.